on to our symptoms or clinical manifestations. So we know they predominantly attack glandular structures, but they can also attack extraglandular structures, right? So we, for our convenience, we divide it into glandular manifestations and extraglandular manifestations. So first we'll deal with glandular manifestations. Okay. So what are the predominant glands that's gonna attack? So lacrimal gland is one of the thing. So lacrimal gland is one of the things. Salivary gland is one of the thing. Parotid gland, and it attacks the airway, uh, skin, vagina. Okay, so let's discuss what happens. So first, let's discuss about lacrimal gland. So damage to the lacrimal gland and fibrosis of the gland will lead to loss of secretory cells. So less tear secretions by the lacrimal gland, right? So there is less tear secretions. What happens next? So there will be dryness of eyes, right? So when there is dryness of eyes, there may be irritation. Okay, so and there will be redness, and there will be blurring of vision. Okay, these all symptoms will lead to corneal ulceration, conjunctival ulceration, which we call it as keratoconjunctivitis sicca. Okay, so due to lacrimal gland secretory cell loss, there is less tear secretion. So there will be dryness of eye, there will be irritation, there will be redness, there will be blurring of vision, and keratoconjunctivitis sicca. Okay, so next thing is salivary gland. Salivary gland produce saliva, which will help our mouth to be moist, right? So there is no salivary saliva due to salivary gland secretory cell problem. So there will be dryness of mouth, right? So there will be xerostomia. There will be mucosal atrophy. There will be fissuring of tongue. As there is fissuring of tongue, it's we can just remember that due to these fissures, there will be decreased sensations of taste. Okay, as it is dry, there will be problem in swallowing the food. There will be tooth decay. Okay, so parotid gland, due to inflammation, there will be bilateral gland enlargement. Okay, these bilateral gland enlargement will compress the nearby nerves, which will cause pain. Okay, so we'll have parotid gland pain in our Sjogren's syndrome. Okay, so next let us come to nose and airways. So there will be dryness in nose and airways also. So what will happen? This dryness will lead to ulceration and bleeding. Okay, there will be difficulty in speaking also. Okay, so the dryness will lead to ulceration and bleeding, and there will be difficulty in speaking. Okay, so there will be dryness of skin, and there will be dryness of vagina. So this dryness of vagina will cause dyspareunia. Okay, pain during sexual intercourse. Okay, so this is uh, diagrammatic representation. Okay, there will be dry eyes, there will be dry eyes, dry nose, dry mouth, dry throat, dry skin. Okay, so these are all the glandular manifestations of Sjogren's syndrome. Okay, so just exocrine glands, lacrimal gland, salivary gland, parotid gland, nose and airways, and dryness of skin and vagina. Okay, next we have extraglandular manifestations also. Okay, apart from gland, other manifestations like systemic symptoms, they are common like fever, fatigue, myalgia, unintentional weight loss, and lymphadenopathy. These are systematic symptoms. Okay, then comes joint involvement. Okay, so what is joint? How does it involve? So there will be arthralgia with or without inflammatory arthritis. Okay, arthralgia with or without inflammatory arthritis. Okay, so next comes vascular condition. There would be purpura. This is bleeding within skin. This occurs due to secondary vasculitis. Okay, and there may be also Raynaud's phenomena present. It occurs because of the arterial spasm. When the arterial spasm occurs, there will be decreased blood flow to fingers. This can cause Raynaud phenomena. Okay. Next, lung involvement. You may have a chronic cough or interstitial lung disease. As we know, when there is fibroblast activation, you can understand if there is lung involvement that will cause fibrosis, which is a interstitial lung disease. Okay. Next, if there is a renal involvement, there might be interstitial nephritis, or there might be defect in tubular function with or without acidosis. Okay, there could be tubular function defect with or without acidosis. Okay, there could be a chance of lymphoma formation also. So there could be malt over there. So we know malt is mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. So there could be a lymphoma. We have a pretty good chances in Sjogren's syndrome, which might turn into lymphoma. Okay. So, Sjogren's syndrome is associated with autoimmune thyroiditis. As we know, thyroid is an endocrine gland, but in Sjogren's syndrome, this is a one endocrine gland which gets affected. So there will be autoimmune thyroiditis. There will be hypergamma-globulinemia. There will be cryoglobulinemia, and there is monoclonal gammopathies. Okay, there are monoclonal gammopathies. So these are the other associated symptoms with other associated conditions with Sjogren's syndrome. Okay, so these are the glandular and extraglandular manifestations. Fine. Now let us move on to investigations. Okay, as we know, the main targets are salivary glands, lacrimal glands. We are going to test those spaces itself. So first, there are tests for salivary glands, and there's test for eye involvement. There are blood tests, and there is pulmonary function test. As we know, there is lung involvement of interstitial lung disease kind. So we'll go for PFT also, pulmonary function test. Okay. So let us see what are the tests that we do for salivary gland hypofunction. Okay. So one is quantitative salivary gland scintigraphy, and the other is whole cylometry. Here we try to take up the saliva. So we shouldn't stimulate the person. It should be unstimulated whole saliva flow. We should calculate whole saliva flow rate. So when we calculate, it should be less than 0.1 ml per minute. Okay. So next comes USG or MRI. This we do to identify the enlargement of the gland. And next comes labial salivary gland biopsy. So as we know, here we have B cell hyperproliferation, right? And we have lymphocyte infiltration in the glands. Okay. So in labial glands, these are minor salivary glands. Okay. So we take up the biopsy and we check for focal lymphocytic infiltration. Okay. So we check for focal collection of the cells. What cells? CD4 plus T cells, plasma cells, and macrophages. This would cause the damage and activation of the fibroblasts. Okay. So we check for this focal infiltration of these cells in the salivary glands. There are minor salivary glands present in the lip. Okay. And we can also check for thickening of the inner duct wall. Okay. So these all we check for salivary gland involvement. Next, for eye involvement, there is Schimmer's test. Here we check for the tear, uh, tear fluid. Okay, this is a Schimmer's test. Okay. When there should be, if there is less than 5 per 5 minutes in at least one eye, we consider it as positive. Okay, positive finding towards Sjogren. Okay, mainly towards dry eye. Next, ocular surface staining. We instill fluorescent staining in the damage. This fluorescent stain will stain the damaged tissue. Okay. Then we can go through slit lamp. Okay. We could go through slit lamp and we can check if there is any damaged tissue. This fluorescent stain will stain that damaged tissue, and this is also one of the positive finding for keratoconjunctivitis sicca. Okay. Then comes blood test. Okay. When we do for blood test, we'll find that there is decreased amount of WBC, increased globulins, ESR and CRP. ESR is mainly elevated. Okay. CRP, it can be elevated slightly or it can be normal. Okay. So there will be elevation in ESR and globulin levels. There will be decrease in the WBC, and CRP level could be normal or slightly elevated. Okay. This is one thing, and we also check for autoantibodies. Okay, for primary Sjogren syndrome, as it is not associated with other rheumatological diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and other things, we will only go for specifically anti-SSO or Rho antibodies, anti-SSB or La antibodies. Okay, so in primary we check for these, and we know in secondary there is involvement of rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, right? So we go for other factors investigations also, like ANA, anti-nuclear antibodies, and also for rheumatoid factor. Okay. Next, PFT, as there is a lung involvement, pulmonary function test. This is Schimmer's test, and this is the biopsy. You can see these are the lymphocytes. Okay, these are salivary glands. Okay, there is a lymphocytic infiltration in the salivary gland. The sample is taken from the lip. Okay, next, let us move on to treatment. Okay, so for treatment, let us divide the case into mild and moderate and severe. Okay, so if the condition is mild and there is no organ involvement, okay, we can use secretagogues. Okay, this secretagogues will increase the secretions. Okay, so this could be muscarinic agonists. So we could give a pilocarpine or cevimeline. Okay, these are the secretory drugs we give, and we could give artificial tears for dry eye. Okay, so these are given in the mild cases when there is no organ involvement. If the case is moderate to severe, there is major salivary gland enlargement, or there could be involvement of other organs. So when there is major salivary gland enlargement, we can give corticosteroids for the management. But if we find there is involvement of other organs other than the salivary glands, we could go for DMARDs, disease modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. Okay, we can move on to DMARDs. If we find that if the involvement of organs is moderate, we can start on non-biological DMARDs like hydroxychloroquine and methotrexate. But if there is it is the condition is severe, we could use biological DMARDs. Okay, like rituximab, cyclophosphamide. Okay, this is about the Sjogren syndrome. Um, so this is the notes of Sjogren syndrome, which is organized in under headings like definition, pathogenesis, symptoms, investigations, and treatment. This is how we write in exams. Okay, so these notes are available in Dundalk's Instagram channel. Please do follow. Thank you.